First, I want to give you an example of what happened to me in my experience. When I used to work at McDonald's, it was a rainy Sunday day. I stood behind the cash register waiting for somebody to come in, order their food, and suddenly this white, blonde, young female comes in, and she stood right in front of my register. So when she was about to order, I noticed she had her hair on her right, like half of her hair was on the right side. So when she was about to order, I noticed that her eyes was kind of purplish greenish, and the side of her face was like bruised. So I'm those type of people that, even though it's none of my business, I ask because, maybe they need help. So I asked her, I told her, ma'am, are you okay? And she said, yeah, I'm okay. And I was like, okay. So then she ordered her food, and when she was done ordering, I told her again, you know what, I don't want to be nosy or anything, but are you sure you're okay? Do you need any help? And she said, no, I don't need any help. And I was like, okay. So somebody grabbed her food. She was about to leave, and I told her, you know what, I hope you get help because I think you need help. And she said, you know what, thank you, and thanks for asking why. Thanks for asking if I'm okay. And I was like, okay, well, you have a nice one. So I will always remember this incident that happened. So today I want to persuade you to seek help if you're in a domestic violence relationship. And I want to give you 3 reasons of why you should seek help. Even though we are taught in high school or even in middle school or in elementary to call the police if you're in a domestic violence relationship, according to the California Senate Office of Research, domestic violence is a difficult crime to measure because it generally occurs in private, and many people do not seek help because they are afraid or ashamed. And there is really no definite estimates of how many incidents of domestic violence go unreported. And according to the California Penal Code, domestic violence is any person who willfully inflicts upon a person who is his or her spouse, former spouse, cohabitant, former cohabitant, or mother or father of his or her child, corporal injury resulting in a traumatic condition. But it not necessarily means that you need to, have a bruise or anything. If somebody, ever, if you're in a domestic violence relationship, not necessarily because you don't have any bruises, the police can't do anything about it. We cannot see that you have something, a bruise or a scratch or anything, even though you say something hurts, the other person could also be charged. Just not because you don't have a physical injury doesn't mean that you can't get any help. Okay, so women and men are victims of domestic violence, not just women. And you are a victim of domestic violence when your partner hits you, kicks you, shoves you, slaps you, and is consistent. And so the first reason is that I want you to take action because you need to break the cycle of domestic violence, because you don't want your kids to know that this is okay, and you don't want your kids to go through the same experience. Even though many people are afraid to leave their partners who they're with because they're afraid and think they deserve that, you really don't deserve to be in a domestic violence relationship. So break the cycle. And normally the cycle is it's tension building up, which means a partner starts getting angry at you, starts abusing you. There's no communication. You feel like you need to calm the other person down every single time. And then suddenly your partner hits you. And then after that, your partner, apologizes to you, tells you that they'll never do it again. But, this cycle repeats itself every single time, and you don't deserve that. The second reason why you should seek help is because you're not alone. There's many services you can get to get you out of this relationship. And if you are in this relationship, you're going to tell someone because, if something happens to you, that person knows that you have been, hit or something. If for some reason you're missing, that person could be the first suspect. National domestic violence hotlines provided, which can help you. You can contact your local court and you can get a restraining order. And a restraining order generally mandates the abusers to stay away from your house, and if not, they will get arrested. And so just seek help. You're not alone. The third reason why I think you should seek help is because this could be the difference between life and death. And just a couple weeks last week, when I was going to give my presentation, I saw in the news this female who her husband killed her, and even though the family knew that she had been in a domestic violence relationship, nobody really did nothing about it until right now she's dead. Nobody can help her. So just remember that. I'm sure all of us would rather choose, staying alive, but unfortunately, others don't seek help. So, according to the Domestic Violence Research Center, on average, more than 3 women and 1 man are murdered by their partners in this country every day. And in 2001, 1,247 women were killed by an intimate partner. The same year, 449 were killed by their intimate partner. Even though the numbers for killed women is more than men, you also have men being killed, or poisoned, or things like that. And the Bureau of Justice Statistics crime data states that intimate partners homicides account for 30% of murdered women and 5% of murdered men. Okay, well, today I've explained to you why you should seek help if you're in a domestic relationship. Not only women, but also men are victims of domestic violence. So break the cycle, get help, and they should take action for your own life. So remember, nobody deserves to be in a domestic violence situation. So seek help.
All right, Sam, what did you think?
I thought the opening was really strong, and you grabbed my attention pretty well. You also interacted with the audience very well, and I thought the evidence you used made your argument a lot stronger. And also your speech was pretty easy to follow, so it was really organized.
All right, I agree. I like the experience that you had at the beginning to set up the topic. We know what the topic is. You had a pretty good description and preview for the body of the speech. The definition is presented. It sounds a little bit mechanical when you're doing it and you're reading it, and I think you need to be a bit more engaged at the beginning. There's a discussion about how both men and women are victims of this, and I think that needed to be developed a little bit more. There was some of that information right at the end when you're talking about people who were killed in this process, but that seems like it's probably the least frequent issue that's going on. I don't doubt that it exists, but there was a little bit of confusion on the statistics that you had. I mean, it made it sound like a third of all the women out there are getting killed, and I know that that's not the number. So there's a third of women who are in some domestic abuse relationship that probably fit into this category, but I thought that the numbers were a little incomplete on that in the explanation of it. You described the cycle of abuse that goes on, and that was fine. Is the cycle typical? Is it representative of all abuse? Does abuse ever exist outside of that cycle? I think you need to explain it a little bit more. There's an inference that there are problems for people outside of the 2 people involved in the abusive situation. For instance, that there's a consequence to family members or to the kids, that sort of thing. I think you need some illustrations on that. The story that you had about the woman who was killed a couple of weeks ago, I think that could be a little bit more emotionally involving if you provide us with some details, give us a little bit of history there, and make it work for you a little bit more. Like I said, the numbers at the end on the number of people who are killed is a little bit, that set of numbers was a little bit confusing, and I'm not sure that we need to always go to that as the situation. Maybe some more information about how people can get out of this situation or what they ought to be doing, especially people who are not involved in the situation but are